Hey everyone, it's Crimson. Following up on my latest video about the rogue class in Diablo 4, today I'll be going over what sorcerers are made of. Let's go! In Diablo 4, sorcerers are your core caster class. They yield cold, fire and lightning magic and use mana as their primary resource. In terms of class fantasy, the cold school of magic seems to focus on applying shield to enemies and eventually freezing them. This in turn allows some skills to get bonuses if you use them on frozen enemies. Fire spells look more focused on direct damage and applying burn, a fire damage over time effect. While lightning seems to be less focused on a single fantasy and more about using multiple spells to spread chaos everywhere, and stuns, they also get stuns. The main class-specific feature is the enchantment system, which basically allows you to pick skills to be altered and become passive effects instead. The example in question is Ball of Lightning, which can either be a spell, Ball of Lightning, or turned into the following passive effect. Sorcerers start right away with very clear spells, as each skill is naturally tied to its element, allowing people to more easily follow a specific archetype if they so choose. On the basic skills we have Firebolt and Frostbolt, mirroring one another except one applies burning and the other applies chill. Also worthy of mention is that by applying consecutive instances of chill, enemies become frozen, and most frost skills can be upgraded to provide more chill effects or do extra stuff if the enemies are hit when frozen, essentially allowing you to pick which skills you use to induce chill and then which ones you use to take full advantage of the frozen effect. The remaining basic skills are Arc Clash and Spark, both associated with lightning damage, as their name implies. Moving on to core skills, we have our fun favorite, or I should say my all-time favorite, Frozen Orb, making a return. It works like we are already used to, unleashing an orb that eventually explodes. Then there's Fireball, also a classic from most RPG games. Incinerate is your beam of fire, consuming mana for as long as you channel it. The first core lightning skill is Charge Bolts, which send out 5 bolts of lightning with erratic pathings. And at last but not least, we have our trusty old boy, Chain Lightning. Still being a bit random, but at least it prioritizes enemies, so it offers great AoE clear. In terms of defensive skills, sorcerers have Ice Armor, with a cooldown of around 20 seconds. We get a barrier that absorbs some damage and grows further by dealing cold damage. Frost Nova only has a 15 cooldown timer, but mainly focuses on immediately applying freezing to enemies around the player. Flame Shield burns nearby enemies and makes the player immune to all damage and negative effects. Although really powerful, it potentially lasts much less than Ice Armor. As for lightning associated defensive skills, there's really only Teleport, which in other games would be a really core to most builds, but in Diablo 4 every class has the ability to do quick dashes on low cooldowns, and it becomes less mandatory. Conjuration Skills is one of the more interesting skill hubs present on the Sorcerer's skill tree. Here we have Ice Blades, which help apply vulnerable and deal a bit of frost damage, our Trusty Hydra, dealing fire damage to enemies near it, and Lightning Spear. This is one of the more unique looking skills as it throws a crackling spear of lightning that seeks enemies and keeps going around for 6 seconds, hitting them over and over if need be. Mastery skills function much like our core skills, as these seem to be other mana spenders with no cooldown, providing a variety or further doubling down on some of our playstyles already going on. There's Blizzard, dealing very solid damage while continuously shielding enemies. Meteor is tied to fire damage by default and nukes a target location, leaving burning ground effect on the ground. Firewall, another fun favorite from Diablo 2, which creates a wall of flames that burns enemies while they stand on it. And Ball of Lightning, a slow-moving lightning ball that continuously zaps enemies along its path. When it comes to the ultimate skills, there's Deep Freeze, a 1-minute cooldown which encases the player in ice, becoming immune for 4 seconds and applying continuously chill effects to enemies around. When the effect ends, frozen enemies shatter for huge damage numbers, and the player is able to press the skill again to end it prematurely. Inferno is only 45 seconds cooldown and pulses a really strong AoE effect that burns enemies for over 8 seconds, and then explodes, dealing damage to the outer edge of the spell. One very interesting note to take regarding this skill is one of its 2 possible upgrades. Supreme Inferno makes it so killing burning enemies reduces Inferno's cooldown by 1, so likely you'll be interested in going deep into one of your schools of magic instead of using spells of many different elements. Lightning gets which is essentially a buff called Unstable Currents that for 10 seconds whenever you cast a lightning skill, another random known basic lightning skill is also cast. As it's already perfectly clear, lightning is all about chaos and randomness. Finally, we have the Capstone Passive effects, which you can also only take one. Icefall gives you 10% chance on your frost skills to make it so your next Ice Shards, Frozen Orb or Blizzard don't consume mana and deal extra damage. This chance is doubled versus vulnerable enemies. Shatter makes it so when your freeze effect expires, enemies explode for 25% of the damage you dealt to them during their frozen effect. Overflowing energy makes it so your crackling energy hits one additional enemy, and each time it hits an enemy, your shock skills cooldown are reduced by 0.1 seconds, further increased to 0.25 seconds against elites. Veer's Mastery increases your shock damage to close enemies by 10% more, and you take 20% less damage. Warmth gives you 50% chance to gain 1 mana per source of burning on the enemy, so applying multiple burning effects will make it scale really well. And the last choice is Izu's Ferocity, which makes your burning damage deal 25% increased damage versus enemies above 50% health. And your direct fire damage also gets 25% increased damage, but to enemies below 50% health. As always, I'll leave the WoEd article down, in which the many passive effects around the talent tree can be seen. So, these were all the spells currently known for sorcerers. I can already see a couple builds I wanna try, and we're not even going into legendary items or uniques, which is also another kind of worms. Personally, I'll start with some Frozen Orb builds, but I plan on trying all 3 schools of magic. What about you? What type of sorcerers are you gonna try to make? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section down below, I'll be looking forward to it. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and check out my Diablo 4 playlist for more guides and informative content. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Take care!